Okay, so if we're gonna gossip about the ultimate tough guy actors in Hollywood, Lee Marvin is totally up there at the top. But girl, there's way more to this dude than just looking scary. You'll be shocked when you hear what he did with his Oscar. Anyway, come sit. Let's spill the real tea on the American actor Lee Marvin. Before he was a huge Hollywood star, let's start from the beginning. He was born February 24, 1924, as Lamont Waltman Marvin Jr. to a World War I veteran dad named Lamont Waltman Marvin and a fashion designer mom named Courtney Washington. Little Marvin grew up in New York. As a kid, he played the violin and hated school because he had ADHD and dyslexia, so learning was super hard for him. Even with that struggle, he turned into a cool guy, and as a teen he spent weekends hunting deer, wild turkeys, and bobwhite birds in the wild Florida Everglades. He loved it and went crazy out there. In the 1930s, he went to this Christian socialist boarding school in New York called Manumit School, and later to Peekskill Military Academy. As a teenager, he was a total troublemaker. Got kicked out of a bunch of schools for smoking and fighting. The last school he went to was St. Leo College in St. Leo, Florida, until World War II started and everything changed. When the war broke out, Marvin was one of the guys who signed up right away. He joined the United States Marine Corps on August 2, 1942. His dad, he called him the Chief, who was also a Marine veteran, was totally against it. But honestly, boot camp was exactly what wild young Marvin needed to get some discipline smacked into him, though he was still a little rowdy. Right before finishing infantry school, he was already working as a quartermaster in the Marines. Marvin did some seriously badass stuff. He was a scout sniper in the 4th Marine Division in the Pacific, and he fought in the crazy battles of Eniwetok and Saipan. Saipan was one of the bloodiest fights ever. During the Battle of Saipan, on June 18, 1944, he got shot by machine gun fire that hit his sciatic nerve, plus another bullet in his foot from an enemy sniper while they were attacking Mount Tapochau. Most of his buddies died that day. He got pulled out, spent more than a year recovering in hospitals, but luckily he healed pretty well. He got a medical discharge and the Purple Heart for being brave. He also got the Presidential Unit Citation, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, American Campaign Medal, Combat Action Ribbon, and World War II Victory Medal. Pretty insane medals for a guy who was only private first class. He could have stayed a corporal, but he kept getting in trouble, so they dropped his rank. Guess you can't take the wild kid out of the man completely. Even though the Marines were brutal, Marvin always said that's exactly where he learned to act. He told an interviewer, Robert Ward, "It was the Marines who taught me how to act. After that, pretending to be tough wasn't so hard." We all know Lee Marvin for that white hair and ice-cold tough guy vibe. After the war, that's when his acting career really blew up. But first, quick reminder, smash that like and subscribe button. When the war ended, Marvin came home and got a random job as a plumber's assistant in Woodstock, New York. But fate is wild. That job became his way into showbiz. One day, the actor in a local play got sick, so they asked Marvin to fill in at rehearsal. Boom! He caught the acting bug that same day, loved it, and got hired by the theater company for $7 a week. He did a bunch of small acting jobs, then moved to Greenwich Village in New York, and signed up at the American Theater Wing. Lucky for him, the GI Bill, the thing that paid for veterans' school, covered his acting classes. At the very start, he did tons of tiny, uncredited roles, and then in 1949, he made his stage debut in the original play Billy Budd, and same year he was in another play called The 19th Hole of Europe. Things started moving fast after that. Soon, he was super busy doing TV shows. Lee Marvin's first movie was the 1951 war comedy You're in the Navy Now with Jack Warden and Charles Bronson. Fun fact, it was their first movie too. Even though they filmed in Hollywood, he decided to stay in California. That same year, he had a small part in the movie Teresa. And because of his real military experience, he helped the director and actors make the soldier stuff look real. He even fixed costumes and showed them how to hold guns right. Because he'd actually been a Marine, Hollywood kept putting him in tough soldier or boss roles. He did lots of small parts like episodes of Fireside Theater and Rebound, plus movies Diplomatic Courier, Down Among the Sheltering Palms, We're Not Married, The Duel at Silver Creek, and Hangman's Knot. He played soldiers again in the Western Seminole and the Korean War movie The Glory Brigade, both 1953. Turns out he was perfect for Westerns, too. So he did The Stranger Wore a Gun with Randolph Scott and Gun Fury. All those little jobs finally led to his big breakout role we're about to get to. The 1950s were when Lee Marvin's career went crazy. In 1953, he played the bad guy Vince Stone in the crime movie The Big Heat, and everybody loved it. Same year, he was Chino, the motorcycle gang leader, the Beatles, opposite Marlon Brando in The Wild One. Those two movies made him famous and opened tons of doors. In 1955, critics went nuts over his role in Violent Saturday. One said he made the character super deep and complicated. He worked with Frank Sinatra in the medical drama Not as a Stranger that year, too. He did a bunch of supporting roles like A Life in the Balance, Pete Kelly's Blues, and Janyan. E. Wyman presents the Fireside Theater. But the TV show where he finally got the main part was M Squad. He played tough Chicago cop Frank Ballinger and became a total household name. Then came the role that proved he was a genius. In the 1965 comedy western Cat Ballou, he played two completely different guys in the same movie. It's based on a book, and in 2008, the American Film Institute called it the 10th best western ever. Jane Fonda plays Cat Ballou, a woman who hires the famous drunk gunslinger Kid Lee Marvin to protect her dad's ranch, then later to get revenge after her dad is killed. Turns out, the guy she hired is a total mess. Marvin also plays the evil, noseless killer Tim Strawn. The bad guys from Wolf City Development Corporation wanted her dad's land, so Strawn just murdered him cold-blooded. Kat tries the sheriff first, but he's paid off, so she's stuck with drunk Shelleen. At first, she's like, this guy, because he's falling over, pants dropping, totally wasted. But after a few drinks, he turns into a deadly shot. It's hilarious and awesome at the same time. Kid Shelleen is the funny, clumsy, sweet drunk, while Tim Strawn is scary and mean. You'd almost think two different actors played them. Later, we find out the two characters are brothers who are total opposites. Strawn is heartless, Shelleen is broken and sensitive, but wants to be better because Kat believes in him. Because Marvin played these opposite twins so perfectly, the movie made tons of money and got award nominations. And yep, he won the Oscar for Best Actor. At the ceremony, he got up and said, dead serious, "I think, though, half of this belongs to a horse someplace out in the valley," and the whole place cracked up. Right after Cat Ballou, he did another hit western, The Professionals, in 1966, with Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, and Donald Sutherland. He played Major John Reisman. That Oscar opened every door. And in 1967, he basically ran his own movie point blank, playing a super angry criminal out for revenge. Next, he did Hell in the Pacific with Toshiro Mifune. Not a huge hit, but critics loved it. By the 1970s, he started playing fewer total villains and did all kinds of stuff. Still some westerns like Monty Walsh, Prime Cut, Pocket Money, Emperor of the North, and The Iceman Cometh. He was super private and picky about friends. He once said, "I can't stand myself. If I could, I'd play the same guy in every role. I don't even like my own company. I don't like hanging out with other actors. I do most of my socializing with the stuntmen, gaffers, and prop guys on set. Those regular guys keep me normal." Relationship-wise, he was married twice and had one messy breakup that went to court. First, he married Betty Ebeling in 1952. They divorced in 1967, but actually lived together 15 happy years with a 2-year break. They had 4 kids: Christopher, Courtney, Cynthia, and Claudia. Right after the split, he lived with actress Michelle Triola from 1965 to 1970. They never married, but she changed her name to Michelle Triola Marvin, and later sued him for half his money, saying they had a palimony deal, like alimony, but for unmarried couples. She said she got pregnant, he paid for 2 abortions, 1 pregnancy miscarried, and the abortions left her unable to have kids. The trial was everywhere in the news. The court made him pay her $104,000 for rehabilitation, but said no to half his almost $4 million because there was no real contract. 2 years later, the court said there wasn't even a contract at all. So she got nothing. Michelle later dated Dick Van Dyke until she died of lung cancer in 2009. Marvin's second and last marriage was to his childhood sweetheart Pamela Feely in 1970. They stayed together until he died in 1987. As he got older, his big star status faded, and he did fewer movies. His last huge role was The Big Red One in 1980, playing a sergeant again. After that came Death Hunt, Gorky Park, and Dog Day, not big hits. In 1985, he came back as Major Reisman in the TV sequel The Dirty Dozen, Next Mission. Everyone knows Lee Marvin fought alcoholism his whole life, starting from the war trauma. There's a famous story from filming The Dirty Dozen. They needed him to drive a truck with Charles Bronson, but he disappeared. Crew found him drunk at a bar, dragged him back, poured coffee, couldn't sober him fast enough, and Bronson was so mad he threatened to kill him right there. But they still shot the scene, and the movie is legendary. Lee Marvin died at age 63 from a heart attack on August 29, 1987. He had a huge intestinal rupture, went into breathing trouble, doctors gave him steroids, and then he had cardiac arrest. A few months earlier, in December 1986, he'd been in the hospital over 2 weeks for something related to coccidioidomycosis. Even though he was a giant movie star, he was prouder of being a Marine. He got full military honors and was buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His headstone just says, Lee Marvin, PFC, U.S. Marine Corps, World War II, 0 mention of acting. Maybe that's because he knew how fake Hollywood is. He once said, "One day you're a big shot, the next you're in the gutter." Ah, stardom. They put your name on a star on Hollywood Boulevard, and you walk down and find a pile of dog poop on it. That tells the whole story, baby.